Yeah, you look like Sasquatch.
Thank you.
Or I guess I should have said Yeti.
Okay, we're going to get started here. We're going to call the meeting of the Planning Commission to order this December 2nd, 2020. If Karen, if you could call roll, please.
Don Daniels.
Here.
Connie Coleman Lackady.
Present.
James Guerrero.
You want to come over for the data?
You're on mute.
This is me.
Looks like he might be frozen, actually.
James, are you?
Oh, there we are.
You're on mute, James.
Just without.
Sorry, you're still on mute.
I can do that. Okay.
Just raise your hand. You here?
That means I can't drink.
Okay, he's here. Okay.
Nancy Hudson Eccles.
Yes.
And Paul Wegeman.
Present.
Ryan Pearson is excused today. You do have quorum.
Great, thank you so much. Before us, we have the minutes of November 18th, 2020. Looking for a motion.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
Mr. Wegeman made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Guerrero, a second. Any changes, comments? No changes, comments, concerns? Okay. All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Mr. Guerrero, Nancy, you're on mute.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. That's all good. Okay. Any opposed? Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the minutes passed as written. Thank you.
Those
Any
two ladies
changes?
sitting 6 feet apart, that's what I want to know.
That's right. Any changes to our agenda tonight, Ms. Spear?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open up public comment. Is anyone online that wish to speak to my fellow commissioners on any subject?
Ms. Devereaux, are you aware of anybody online or requesting public comment?
No, I am not aware of anyone wanting to, and I have forwarded everything that I've received to the commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay, again, seeing or hearing none at this time, we'll close the public comment. We'll move to number 6, unfinished business. It's the proposed Lakewood Station District Subarea Plan and Hybrid Form-Based Code. Ms. Spear.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. I'm going to share my screen, but in your packets, what was provided to you tonight was a brief summary memo from me that included a collection of the public comments that were received either on the night of the public hearing or things that have been sent since then through November 25th. And there were responses provided to those public comments. And then within the packet, you also received updated drafts of the sub-area plan and the development code, which reflect some of the things that you saw in the public comments and responses. What you have now today received from Karen Devereaux is several emails that include public comments that were submitted after all of that material was presented and circulated to you and to the public. And so we will be able to address some of the public comments received, but not all of them during this evening's meeting. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen at this point. Excuse me. So on November 18th, you had a public hearing on the proposed Lakewood Station District Subarea Plan and the Hybrid Form-Based Code. That was following a study session at your prior meeting on November 4th. Because there was a desire to make sure the public was fully heard during this process, you as a commission decided to hold the public hearing open to receive written public comment through today at noon. And in fact, as I just mentioned, there were a number of comments submitted electronically to the city that were circulated to you this afternoon. And then the table that I'm about to walk through answers the comments that were submitted either live during the public hearing on the 18th of November or through November 25th. And then at the end of this presentation, you'll see I've got a couple of potential changes to your legislative schedule based on what's happened with public comment. So I'm just going to walk through the same table that was included in the handouts or the materials for tonight and just briefly explain what the comment was and what the city's response to that is. So Coral Clark, or CJ Clark, she provided some live public comment on the 18th and expressed some concern about properties located roughly at the intersection of 109th and Kendrick, and that the right-of-way, as depicted in maps, showed the right-of-way running through her parents' property. And she also expressed concern about a certain areas or streets being identified as green streets or boulevards when they didn't necessarily make sense. So what has happened in the new drafts of your code and plan itself was to take away the Green Street designations north of 111th and also to update the maps to reflect that within the plan and the code. One note about the concern about the right-of-way around her parents' properties or her own sister's property, I believe as well, is that the plat that her parents live in or her family lives in was platted long before the city ever incorporated, and the original maps, which are available through the county auditor's office, shows the same right-of-way that's reflected in the maps today by the city. However, these are GIS level maps that we're using as part of the Lakewood Station District area. So if there's concern about the property lines as well as the official right-of-way that the city currently has ownership of, that would require a survey. And so that's something that she or her family could pursue. Jeremy Long, also that evening, concerned about the same properties and issues regarding where green streets might be and how much improvements might be provided in areas that are built out. And the same responses would apply to those public comments from Mr. Long. Mike Brandstetter provided comment. Obviously, he used to be the liaison to the Planning Commission from the City Council. He no longer serves in that role, so he was providing general public comment. And he was asking to verify whether the one of the intersections referred to that needed some mitigation because of traffic impacts was really Halcyon and Pacific. We went back and verified that he was correct. And so really it should be the intersection of Sharondale Street Southwest and Pacific Highway. So that's been updated in the plan and the code. And also the comments that he provided regarding displacement of current residents are noted. Then we had a number of comments submitted by Public Works and Planning from Pierce County and also the Lakewood Water District. And these were all submitted for the night of the 18th. And so you'll see on the top, the first question was whether the 54 unit per acre density identified within the transit-oriented commercial zone was for, residential development or all development within that zone. And the 54 units per acre is a residential only development density. If it's a mixed use development, you may have differing densities just depending on the type of mixed use you're talking about per project. The second question was regarding reduction factors applied for storm facilities and parking on site, and also for critical areas. And then the comment or question was, is this something that the city's comfortable with, these numbers? And the reaction was, yes, those are noted, and those are those that the county utility applies for determining growth in sewer planning and also in the buildable lands report that the city is involved with Pierce County every couple of years. The question was also about parking reductions, and really the answer about when you might see a drop in the available parking in the area or changes to development requirements for parking spaces. That's simply going to be dependent on when the market responds and starts to move into this area and redevelop things either for residential or multifamily or mixed use development. There was a discussion about a diagram on the bottom of page 5, just showing that something was a JBLM owned sewer line, and that was actually from Pierce County Sewers ownership. And so we have noted that and created that correction in the new version. On page 6 of the plan, there was a question from the Water District and/or Planning and Public Works of the county, whether phase 2 of Lakewood Landing was included in projected growth numbers. The numbers that are involved and included in the plan are strictly from phase 1, understanding that that phase is still yet to be really fleshed out and finalized. We're coordinating with the Lakewood Landing development team, working with the city, and that is just a moving target. There is an intent to do this phase 1 in Lakewood Landing. That's what they're calling the central core, and hoping that it is a mixed use type of development, and then future phases would be also mixed use, maybe with different combinations of residential versus commercial development. But the actual numbers included in the plan are related just to phase 1. In the draft plan at page 7, there was a discussion about, or there was a question, excuse me, about the road shop and gravel pit owned by the county. We understand that now the way the boundaries for the sub-area plan have been redrawn, that area is actually outside of the sub-area plan now. It is located south of I-5, and the sub-area plan stops at the I-5 border. There was a discussion on page 11 and then a question talking about whether the city would be sponsoring investment or what that meant. And then the comment that the county does upgrades as needed to services, utilities, not ahead of time. And so the intent of the language within the draft plan talking about sponsorship is really making the assumption that there will be good planning and ongoing planning, as there is now, between the city and county to make sure that the utilities are developed in the method that's approved and used by both the county and the city. Just a correction regarding a couple of items on page 54 at the request of the utilities and Pierce County. And then pages 57 and 60, talking about capital improvement plans, and again, sharing information with the county, particularly with their upcoming unified sewer plan process, where they're going to be looking at the entire county's service area, which does include City of Lakewood as well as other cities and the unincorporated county area, to be sure that accurate information is provided to them as they're figuring out where future increases in their capacity might be needed. And the city, of course, is wanting to be in part of the unified sewers plan update process, as well as the ongoing coordination. So that was all of the information incorporated into your draft plan and development code as of November 25th's comments. And then this is just a summary of what was actually provided to the commission members today. There were some additional comments received. Ms. Carol Colleran provided some information both individually to, I believe, Commissioner Guerrero, but then also to the full Planning Commission about displacement concerns of low-income residents. And then you had Manley Clark, CJ Clark, and Jeremy Long submit comments, and they are all related to those same properties that were discussed the night of the 18th near 109th and Kendrick. And then there were some additional comments provided by Mr. Long about concerns about low-income resident displacement. As you know, you just saw them today, as did other members of the city staff. And so we're not ready with answers to any of these comments this evening, but we would be at the next Planning Commission meeting. So as a result of that, this is just a suggestion. This is not set in stone by any means. It's up to you how you want to proceed. But we are this evening just looking at these comments, and if there's any questions from Planning Commission members. Otherwise, a suggestion to you would be to consider, first of all, closing public hearing. I submitted a notice to not only the people that you received public comment from, but also all of the agencies, neighboring jurisdictions, required SEPA notification to other interested groups and agencies to let them know that they could have commented by December 2nd, and we didn't receive any from any of those groups or agencies. So I would suggest closing public hearing, but then looking ahead into January and February, there is a potential to hold a January 6th Planning Commission if you would decide to do that. And then on the 20th, there may be discussion and or action if you're ready to take it. Or on February 3rd, the Planning Commission could take action on its recommendation to council regarding the plan and the code. And then the way it sits right now, the City Council would begin its consideration of the entire package. So the stuff recommended by the Planning Commission. And then in addition to that, the SEPA planned action checklist, which is on its own track based on SEPA rules. And then by April 5th, you could potentially have the City Council taking action to adopt all three pieces and have this new sub-area plan and its accompanying code and planned action ordinance in effect by the beginning of May of next year. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to you, see if there's any questions or if you'd like to discuss process or content of what you've got.
Great, thank you so much. Do I have any questions for Ms. Spear on what she presented to us tonight in relation to this? No, I see shaking, no questions at this time. Mr. Wagaman.
So we're not making any decision tonight. That's correct.
Correct.
And so it's probably better. I don't know if it's worth discussing. I know I had a personal conversation with Carol Colleran, and I think she's got some legitimate thoughts. You know, I mean, what do we do? Where do low income people live? And she said, well, how do these decisions get made? And I said, well, I mean, the city's been working on leading up to this for a long time. I know I sat through a thing a couple of years ago where we had the big charrette and we're looking where would we put stuff. And, you know, it kind of made sense when we had the rapid transit, the train station out there, that, you know, we need some kind of high-rise housing or apartments and those kinds of things in that particular area. So that means those single family units become the real estate where we put some of those kind of things. So in a sense, it's been coming. The problem is all of a sudden reality starts hitting people that live there. And we, as a commission, you know, we talked when we first started up the commission about the growth management plan. You know, where do we put people? Because we're required to do that. And so this is a census year. So we're going to be asked to say, hey, how are we going to absorb more people into our community? Buildable land for single family units is, you know, is a scarce thing in Lakewood. So these kind of things. The question is how do we communicate with our citizens that all of a sudden get, uh-oh, what are we going to do now? Because things are going to change. And so I'd be interested to hear what, you know, staff has to say on this as we move forward. And then I'd be here what the rest of you think. You know, how do we handle these things? Are we going to be looked at a place that just runs people out of town to get what we want? So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I appreciate. Thank you for your comments. Mr. Guerrero, did you? Yes, go ahead.
Is my mic on?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I had a conversation with Carol Colleran also, and Paul hit it right on the head. Her primary concern was that we have low-income people living in this neighborhood. They will be displaced if this plan comes to fruition. Do we make accommodations for them? And in thinking about that, I think she has a point that the plan, I actually agree with the concept of the plan, that this is where density should go. But I'm curious if the plan can contain more specific language towards providing true low-income housing as a component of it. Now, we certainly want middle-income housing in that area also, but is there a way to make the plan require a certain level of low-income housing so that we really aren't displacing people from the neighborhood? Now, we certainly, the concept does displace them from their current homes, but at least provide spaces that they can still be in the neighborhood in the same kind of income range. And that's probably more a question for staff or for Burke Consulting, but I know other cities and jurisdictions have done that, and so I think that would solve Carol's concern, and now she's brought it up to me, and it's my concern too. I think I think we do need to be more directly addressing that need.
Yep. Yep. I hear over and over. Miss Connie, you have a question? Unmute yourself.
I don't really have a question. I'm just saying, I agree. I mean, there's so many times that when I was on the school board going through there, those people can afford what they have. And I don't know why we can't design a community that is truly low income, that looks nice and doesn't distract from our city and things like that. I don't know why we can't find somebody that could do that and let these people have a home that they can afford and be in their neighborhood. I just think that somebody should just think outside of the box and figure it out.
Yep.
Mr. Guerrero.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. And so I'm sure staff will come back with hopefully some recommendations and some ideas on that specific topic. And Mr. Wagaman again.
Yeah, follow up. You know, I mean, if you're a developer coming into an area, to make it pencil, you got to be able to turn some kind of revenue on the properties that you spend big money on. And that, you know, when you're only going to get $700 a month on rent on some of these low income places, then, you know, where do we subsidize that? You know, and, you know, there are people like Carol and others that are willing to take less revenue off their property than others. But, you know, if you bring a developer in, which is what I feel that the city's trying to do, you know, they want to try and get top dollar on all that stuff. And so that makes it tough. And I mean, these aren't easy questions. And then if you do put really, you know, I've been involved in putting some high-end condos together, and all of a sudden you got to start mixing socioeconomic levels. Some people don't want to mix, and so that, you know, all of a sudden degrades the value of the property. And but I think I'm hearing from this group right tonight that we all want to have some kind of compassion, and, you know, how do we do that?
Yep. Good comments. We appreciate that. And so no other follow-up questions, Ms. Spear? You heard our comments, and so it just go back and then come back to us. So the agenda that Ms. Spear has laid out for us, is that pretty much acceptable to you? Is to have it, I believe the next meeting or on this topic is January 20th, as I thought?
That's certainly something city staff could do, but yeah, just waiting for direction from the commission.
Yeah, is that, you know, pretty good for everyone else here? Yes. Okay, sounds good. So yes, that is acceptable to our fellow commissioners and myself for that January 20th to revisit this subject.
And I'm sorry, maybe there could be either consensus or a motion taken if needed to close the public hearing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'll do that
All right.
next.
Sorry,
So,
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's fine. So we will take a motion to close the written part of the public hearing that was still open. So
I'll make a motion that we close the written portion of the public hearing.
yes.
I can second it.
And thank you, Ms. Eccles, as well for second. Any discussion? Hearing or seeing no discussion at this time. All those in favor by closing the public hearing on the written portion at this time, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. So the public hearing on the proposed Lakewood Station District Sub-Area Plan and Hybrid Base Code written, Mr. Wagaman.
Yeah, just one follow-up comment on all this. I think I'm encouraged that we got as many people to make comments, and I guess the other thing I would take away from this is, you know, I know the city works really hard to try and communicate to our citizens when things are going down, but yet people are still ignorant as to what's going on.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we fix it, but it ought to be another area that we look at so that citizens kind of know, and you know, and how do they get their voices heard? So anyhow.
Yep, great. So I'll continue though, and on this, we did have a first and a second, and apparently we had no discussion and no comments. So I made them, I said all those in favor by saying aye. You said aye, and then I asked if any opposed. No one said opposed. So that motion passed to close the public hearing on the written parts. Thank you so much. And if I could, Ms. Pierre, on that topic, I noticed also a few of the comments that came in said that they had a hard time getting into our Zoom meeting. I don't know how to address that. Someone said they went to the website and that wasn't the way to log in. So that, you know, maybe needs to look at. I don't know how it all it goes down either. I mean, you can't send every citizen the invitation to the Zoom meeting, you know, out. So I don't know how all of that gets distributed, but I saw a couple of the comments from various individuals saying they had a hard time connecting or getting in on the public hearing.
Yes, we saw that as well. One of the issues, if you'll recall last time during the public hearing, one of the individuals is actually calling in from the state of Hawaii,
Yes.
and he's the one that ended up having to speak through
The
his
phone.
sister's phone.
Yeah.
And I think we've got that one resolved. But in
Okay.
terms of the other individual who was saying she had difficulty, that's Ms. Colleran, and she now is included, as well as the other folks that you've received comments from, on the interested party list. So they are getting, in addition to everything that's going to the weekly city manager bulletin, the website, social media, they're also getting special targeted messages from us saying, this is what's going on, this is what's available now, this is when to submit comment, and this is when to participate. I think, though, to respond to what a couple of you have said this evening, we can make a special effort between now and when the council starts to take this up, do another mailer out to the citizens in this sub area and let them know what's going on and give them an update of dates and that sort of thing. And COVID is a hard thing to try to work around with legislative process, but if we can just maybe really pay attention to how we're explaining how to tune in, we'll just make that effort and try to make it more easy to understand.
If you could, and also maybe shortly, just could you explain to us how that works? Is there, when you have a notice of a public hearing, it goes, how does that process and how do the people, just the general citizens of Lakewood, if they're interested not living in that area, how do they attend to a meeting? How does that process currently work?
Well, on the notice for the meeting, on the agenda for the Planning Commission, it now explains how to tune in, how to submit comment, how to participate in a public hearing, how to just watch the meeting live or after the fact.
Okay.
And those agendas are posted on the city's website, as I think they always have been. But then there's also the city manager's bulletin, which goes out weekly to anybody who signs up for information from the city. And that explains when there's an upcoming public hearing or the status of a plan or a project. And then there's also the city's social media, so Facebook and Twitter presence, where hearings and meetings are notified to anybody and everybody. And trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, the Lakewood Connections magazine, which goes out quarterly. We provide information there as well. And so I'm going to be working to get updated information into that for what's going to happen now into next year.
Great. Commissioner Echoes.
So all these notices go out to everybody on Twitter and Facebook and everything. Is there just a link that they can click on to connect to this meeting, or do they have to go back to the website? How many clicks does it take? Is there something that you could just put on the Lakewood website that says meeting and the date and you click on it? I mean, there's a lot of people who aren't savvy with the computer, and if they can just do one click, they're good.
Yes, we can do that because the way to watch, you wouldn't be able to participate, but the way to watch would be to go to the Lakewood's YouTube site. And
Right.
that's a one-click link that we can certainly include.
Can they join? How do you get them to join though easily?
They would need to have the information that comes from the agenda because each Zoom meeting, unfortunately, is its own unique identifier. So
Yeah.
we can't post like the same one all the time. It won't work. So we'll try to figure it out to make it as user-friendly as possible.
Okay.
Yep. Great, thank you. Great comments. And thank you for updating. If citizen would ask myself there again, I, didn't have a really good answer. So I thought I should at least have a little bit of information to direct them to attend and have some availability for them to make comments.
And of course, all of you can refer people to Karen or myself.
Sure.
As staff, we'd be happy to help as well.
Yep, great, thank you. So we move to number 8, then new business, and it doesn't look like we have any new business. So we'll move to number 9, and Mr. Boki isn't with us tonight. So any reports from staff?
Just to let you know briefly, one reason why Mr. Boki, or the reason he's not in on the call tonight, is because he's engaged with a city council meeting where they're meeting with the state delegation to provide them with the city's priorities for this next legislative session in Olympia. But the city council continues to be looking at next year's budget, and they are scheduled to be taking action and finalizing things this next Monday, the 7th. So by your next meeting, which at this point is in January, you'll be able to hear all of that outcome. And there is a tentative, again, I know I mentioned this to you a while back, but on December 7th now, there's a tentative appointment of a new planning commissioner. I don't know for sure if that's happening or not, but I'll let you know by email if that's the case for sure once I hear. The other announcements is that your next meeting would be scheduled for either January 6th or 20th. I guess what's the pleasure of the group? Would you like to meet January 6th? Is that too close to New Year's, or are you going to be back in the groove? If so, it would be a matter of that meeting, I believe, electing your chair once again, talking about the work plan for the year and things like that. And then January 20th, whether it's your first or second meeting of the year, is when the Lakewood Station District Plan would come back to you.
Any suggestions, fellow commissioners? January 6th?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's fine, yes. January 6th.
Okay. And then that would be it then for this year. So you would be able to write this off your calendar for 2 weeks from now, no worries about it, and enjoy your holiday season. And we'll see you in 2021.
Great. So also then, fellow commissioners, think about January 6th. Then, like Ms. Spear said, if any of you wish to step up and be the chair for next year, just shoot me a little email or I see fingers pointing. Okay. So anyway, I just want to offer it's out there, and
You
you're
do
more
such
than
a
welcome.
great job. We're really happy with you.
Thanks. I get more compliments on this time of the year. You're right.
We compliment you all the time.
I hear you. No problem. And then also, my understanding is there's going to be an opening as well for the city council. I heard that that is a possibility, an opportunity as well. I don't know what the council will have a process, I'm sure, to go through and look, but there is an opening that Mr. Simpson's going to be moving out of the area. And so that's the reason why he had to resign and cut his term short by 1 year. So there would be a 1 year. Yes, Mrs. Eccles?
Just to give you guys a heads up, I'm moving next year.
Oh.
So I'm not sure if it's going to be like March or June, but I'll give you a heads up.
You got it. Thank you. Moving to out of the area, state, or country?
Out of state, yes. We're moving out of state.
Wow.
Are you moving to a red state or a blue state?
Yeah.
A
warm state?
We're going to be in a couple different states.
Oh.
So we're My mother-in-law lives in New Mexico, so we'll be there for part of the year, and then we'll be traveling in our motorhome too.
Oh, wow. Santa Fe is really nice down that area. I don't know where in New Mexico, but,
Farmington, it's right at the Four Corners,
oh,
almost into Colorado.
well, Colorado's pretty nice too. So.
Yeah.
So you're going to drive around in your motorhome, and when they need extra votes in different places, you're going to register
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
Okay, good for you.
Okay,
Yeah.
any other comments by fellow commissioners? No other comments? All righty, we'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you so much.
That
Merry
was quick.
Christmas. Yep,
Merry
happy
Christmas.
holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Happy travels.